Feeling like your inner critic is constantly whispering, "You're not enough." Managing stress for teachers is crucial right now. In this episode, Stefani Scotch will give you some practical ways to quiet that bully brain and reclaim your peace. Hit play for tangible tools to help you feel lighter and happier.
It's the Happy Music Teacher!
Are you an elementary music teacher who's frustrated and overwhelmed? I'm Jeanette Mahalchik, a happy music teacher who loves teaching every day, but it wasn't long ago I was in your shoes. Join me Wednesdays to help you find happy in your music classroom. I am so excited today to welcome my friend, Stefani Scotch. And full disclosure, she and I were neighbors at Smith Lake for quite a number of years. And we recently reconnected and we had just the best conversation. And Stefani is not a music teacher, as you heard from her bio, but she is an amazing person and she's got such a wealth of information to share. And I'm so excited for Stefani to be here today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be a guest on your show, on your podcast. And you're right. I would, who knew? Who would have thought, when we met each other so many years ago at the lake, being neighbors, that we'd be sitting here today talking on your podcast. It's amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Tell us a little bit about you and about your journey and what your mission is, because I know you are all about helping people.
Yeah. So about 4 years ago, I was 45 pounds heavier and I was in a cycle of emotional eating, binge eating. I did not have any healthy coping mechanisms as far as how to cope with stress and life that didn't revolve around food. And so any emotion that I felt, whether it was boredom, stress, happiness, I was either binge eating or not eating at all. So I had a very poor relationship with food. And I also am a recovering codependent. So I didn't even know what a boundary was. Like I didn't even know what that meant, 4 years ago. So I was terrible at setting boundaries. I was a people pleaser to a fault. And I had just given everything of myself away, literally and figuratively, and I was empty. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror one day and not recognizing who I was. And I even saw a picture of myself and saying, "That's not me." And I felt like I was just a shell of myself. Like my eyes were empty and I said, something's got to change. So I started making small changes in my health, starting just with my nutrition and implementing new habits around nutrition and the way I cope with stress and life and emotions. And little by little, I started honestly just revamping my whole life, one habit at a time. And it changed everything for me. It made me a better mom. It made me a better friend. I was married at the time and I'm now divorced. And I had to go through a really difficult, not that any divorce is easy. Who are we kidding? But it was a very not a typical, it was hard. It was really hard. But the tools that I had learned and was learning along the way, those tools helped me go through that in a much healthier way than maybe I would have before. And so now here I am 4 years later, still 45 pounds down on the scale, which that's a great win. But the biggest win for me has been how I feel, the habits I've learned so that I can not only have lost that, but keep it off and teach someone else how to do it. Help the next person. So that's what I do. That's my passion. I love helping other people just find themselves again, believe in themselves again. Like you said earlier, quit the negative self-talk and just grow. And we're never done growing.
No. No, we're not.
Never. Yeah. So I found that I was like, okay, I've got to my goal weight. What's next? Because
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
that's just a small piece of the puzzle. So
Well, and that's the case. I mean, when you're trying to self-correct, and that's really not the word I want to use. When you're trying to improve yourself in some way, and you and I talked about, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast, is because we have such negative self-talk, like women especially, but I think there are men out there doing the same thing. And as teachers, music teachers especially, we are perfectionists to the max. Like, we grew up with teachers telling us, you can't make a mistake, and you can't be this, and you can't, and you have to play this certain kind of music. And musicians are such perfectionists. I have a feeling artists probably on some level are also very much perfectionists, but you get into this habit of this negative self-talk. And, for us, it's, I'm a bad teacher and I failed today. And I go in the Facebook groups and I just read, and I'm like, my heart is just breaking for people who are, they're talking to themselves in this way that's, like we talked about at our coffee. You wouldn't talk to your best friend that way. So tell me a little bit about or tell my audience, I should say, a little bit about the type of self-talk that you were talking to yourself. Like, what were you saying to yourself back, when, and not even the weight part of it, but the person that you were. And because I know I'm also a people pleaser, and when I was in my 20s and 30s and even early 40s, I let people walk all over me. And, it would be colleagues and it would be friends, and it were quote unquote friends, not real friends, but, and I had this self-talk that I just felt so negative about myself and so down about myself. Tell me a little bit about what you said to yourself. What were some of the things that you said to yourself, and what are some of the things that you're still struggling with? Because, if you're watching this podcast on video, you can see Stephanie is just a beautiful, beautiful woman. She's beautiful inside and out, but, even somebody as pretty as she is, and as wonderful a person, still has these negative thoughts, right?
yes, yes, and thank you for saying that. Thank you so much. But it's so easy to get into that habit of just being your own bully. It's like the
Hmm.
bully brain. I think we talked about this
Hmm.
too, maybe a little bit at coffee. You know,
Yeah.
you have this bully brain that you would never ever, those things that you say to yourself, if you stepped back and you said, gosh, either A, would I say that to my best friend? No. Or if my best friend said that to me, would we still be friends? No. So why do we talk to ourselves that way? And so a lot of the things, goodness, I mean, when you asked what are some of the things that I would say to myself, I mean, how long is this podcast? Because
Right.
yeah, because I mean, the list is very long, but I mean, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. If I would make a mistake or make someone upset or was worried I would make someone upset, I would beat myself up and say, you're a failure. You're not good enough. You're dumb. Of no wonder they're mad at you.
Hmm.
Like look at you. Look what you did. How could and I remember this one too. How could someone love me like that when I'm not worthy of that love? And that
Hmm.
and that's tough. Like that makes me want to choke up when I think about it. Or if I would go through a binge eating episode, I would kick myself. You're so stupid. Why would you do that? You know how you feel
Hmm.
after you do this. Why are you? So just learning how to speak life into yourself and learning how to catch those thoughts quick. As soon as they start coming in, catch the thought and stop it. I've even had to say over and over to myself when I start thinking a thought of, "Oh, you're so dumb." literally out loud saying stop, stop, and just stop that thought, and then replace it with you're so smart. Just those little tweaks, and then just saying it over and over again. And it sounds cheesy and silly, but it really does work. I think it's Mel Robbins. She has an amazing podcast about how you should high five yourself in the mirror every day.
Oh, I
And
love that.
yes. And she talks about how it seems silly to high five yourself in the mirror, but the actual action of seeing yourself give yourself a high five helps rewire your brain, because usually when you're giving someone a high five, you're telling them, good job, great job. You're encouraging
Mhm.
them. So just do it to yourself. Make that a habit to start encouraging yourself and speak those positive, affirming thoughts over your life. Really watch your words, because your words have
Mhm.
power.
Yes. Yes. I mean, your
So,
words have power, like, to other people, but they also have power to you. And, that was one of the things that really struck me when we were talking is you wouldn't say these things to yourself out, like you wouldn't say them out loud about yourself. You would not describe yourself in the way that you're talking to yourself in your head. And so how did you get through that? Like, how did you stop doing the negative self-talk? How did you, and what do you say to yourself now? Like, what's the most powerful thing that you say to yourself in the morning?
ooh, okay. The most powerful thing I say to myself in the mornings is, you are worthy. Because for a long time, my self-worth was in the toilet, which is why I was, you know, what led me to being unhealthy is I
Mhm.
just, my self-worth had gotten knocked down just over the years and over the different experiences that we all have. And so reminding myself every day, I'm worthy. I'm worthy. That's the most powerful thing for me. And what I had to do was, there are days where I would write down, just pen to paper, journal out affirmations. I'm a good mom. I'm smart. I'm a hard worker. I'm a really great friend. Anytime I would feel like going down the negative self-talk path, I would make myself sit down and just write out all the opposite things. So if my brain was telling me something negative, I would write down the opposite of that. And there's still days that I have to catch myself with
Of
them, with
course.
but it's gotten a lot. You just feel a lot lighter when you start really speaking to yourself like you would your best friend. Treat yourself as if you were your best friend, you know?
I love that. And I love that you write things down and stick them in a place where you can see them, because I feel like that's super important. It's super important to, and for me, I have, and I'm sure I'm far from the only person that does this. I'll look at myself in the mirror when I'm getting dressed in the morning, and I look at my butt and I'm like, oh, it's so big. And and I look at my face because I'm aging. I'm going to be 60 next month. And I go, oh my gosh, look at all those wrinkles, and oh my, and so we do that to ourselves, where we look at ourselves and we just beat ourselves up. And
Mhm.
it's, you know, I've been at several schools in the last little while where they have all these positive affirmations on the wall or on the door or whatever, and or on the mirror in the bathroom. And it's really important to have something visual. I mean, not just to say to yourself, but to have something visual. I have, I've got my positive affirmations behind me, and I've got some that I look at when I'm working. And because, it's hard to do what we're doing. It's hard to be an entrepreneur, and it's hard to be a leader. And I know for both of us, we love it, but there are days where we totally feel like we're not doing the right thing, days where you're not feeling successful and all the things.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you said having things written down like behind you or in front of you for you to see. So I'm going to show you this one thing real fast. I have this I
Yes.
wrote down. I actually wrote it down last year, but I mean, I have a lot of things written down, and I have my little affirmations behind me too. But this right here, it's backwards, but it says,
Well,
balance.
actually, I can see it
You
forward.
can? Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay. These are my this was actually my mantra for 2024, but I loved it so much. I'm like, I'm going to keep it up for 2025. So I'm balanced, I'm worthy, and I'm abundant. And so
I
whenever I
love that.
think of different words that make me feel, feel good, I write them down and I see them. And another thing that I remembered was, so I have Mason. He's 17 now, but
I
when
can't believe it.
I know, remember when he was
He was like 7 when but maybe, I don't know, 5 when I first met him. He was this, I just have to tell a little aside. So Mason loves to fish and my dad loved to fish. And I remember one time he was just a little guy and he would like wake up in the morning before you guys, I don't even know if you guys were out of bed, and he would be down there on the dock fishing and my dad would go down and, when my dad was visiting, and he would fish with him. And my dad just thought that was the greatest thing. He was
I
such a
remember
little
that.
cutie. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I remember their little bond they had, Mason and your dad, but yes, loves to fish. And he's got these little nuggets of wisdom. I mean, he's 17 now, so I don't get a whole lot of, you know, I don't get a whole lot of words out of him
Chatting
now.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, not like when he was, fishing on the dock when you would see him. But I remember he was probably around maybe 9 or 10. And I remember I can see us sitting in the car and I'm driving and we stopped at a red light and I pulled my mirror down, opened it up, looked at myself, slammed the visor down and said, "Oh, I look awful." And he said,
Oh.
"Mom, you shouldn't say that about yourself." He said, "You're wonderfully made. And when you say that about yourself, it's not being very nice." And I said,
Oh.
"You're right." And so I still think of that moment when like you said, when I see you're like, I look at my butt and I'm like, ugh, or my wrinkles. And I think, no, I am so thankful for the wrinkles. And this is exactly how I'm supposed to look. And I have to work at that. But I remember Mason's words of wisdom when he was 9. So,
I love that.
yeah, yeah,
And the other thing about that is, you are a model for your children,
mhm,
and especially if you have little girls, be you a man or a woman, if you have little girls and you're, you know, I don't know. I just feel like women are so hard on themselves. And if you are modeling that behavior for your children, boys or girls, right?
yep.
It's not good for them. So, it's good to feel positive about yourself and to, you know, no matter what you look like, no matter what your weight, no matter what you're doing in your life, no matter how you feel, if you can lift yourself up instead of bringing yourself down. And I love that he said, "You're wonderfully made." That's so special.
So special. Yes, and I have to tell myself that too. That's another thing that I say. If I start going down that negative road, I am
Mhm.
wonderfully made. I'm made exactly how I'm supposed to be made, and that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. I
Yeah.
I loved that your words of affirmation were just written down. Like just
Yeah.
they're on a piece of notebook paper. And so if you're not watching the podcast and you're listening to it instead, Stephanie held up just a piece of notebook paper that had her 3 words written down on the notebook paper. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be something fancy and pretty. If you're into that, that's great, but I'm not very artistic. I love Canva, but I'm not very artistic. And so, anytime these I bought, my words of affirmation, I bought them at home.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be something pretty. It just has to be something that speaks to you, Write the words down, cut them out, slap a piece of, masking tape on the mirror
Yes.
and put them there because you need to remind yourself of how amazing you are and what an amazing teacher you are. And I tell people all the time when they're talking about, oh, I had a really bad day with my kids, you know, write down little things in a journal or on your phone or whatever to give you an idea of, okay, maybe today didn't go so well, but look back at another day where, some kid came up to you and was like, that was the best class ever, that sort of thing. So I do think it's really important to remind ourselves of how amazing we are because we are all amazing. If you are listening to or watching this podcast, you are an amazing person and an amazing teacher because you are trying to learn and grow as a person, and I think that's so important. So one of the reasons that I had Stefani on is because she, besides all of the wonderful, amazing advice she has, because I follow her on all the social medias, is she just started a podcast herself. And I wanted to make sure that people knew, because I knew it was going to be, full honesty, I have not listened to any of her podcast episodes yet, but because it's almost brand new, but I've been listening to and watching her on social media, and I know she has so many amazing things to share. So tell us a little bit about your podcast. And you told me that it was kind of something that had been on your heart for a long time. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited that I actually did it. It was one of those things that had been on my heart for a couple of years, and I just kept putting it on the back burner, and I kept saying, that is so silly. Who would even listen to you? You know, just that, again, that negative
Yeah.
self-talk trying to talk me out of pursuing my dream or a goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I almost let it get the best of me, but I said, you know what? I would rather go for this. I would rather push through this fear and go for this, because if it helps one person, then mission accomplished.
Right.
Just one person. And I would rather go into it with that mindset instead of waking up one day. I shared this with you at coffee. I don't want to wake up one day regretting that I didn't do it. That
Yes.
to me is a bigger gut punch than it being a total flop.
Right.
So I set out to do it, and it launched last week. It's called She Lost It. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, all the places.
And I will
And
link to it in the show notes as well.
thank you. Thank you. I'm learning as I go. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a fancy studio. It's just me and a microphone. And I just really want to help other people find their voice or get their voice back. And I'm going to share different lessons I've learned over the years, things I've lost, but the things that I've gained in return. So I want it to be a space where people feel seen and heard and empowered to really step into fear, step into whatever their purpose is. Um, so yeah, I'll be talking about real life in real time, sharing real stories, having guests on like you, Jeanette, and just talking about how much we have, the mistakes we've made and how we've grown through them, what we've
Mm-hmm.
learned through all of the things that life throws at you.
Love
So yeah,
it. I
that's
love it.
it.
And I'm so excited to start listening because I saw that it went live last week and I was like, oh, and I've been babysitting my niece and nephews who are older niece and nephews, but still like being the quote unquote mom for 4 days was a lot of work. I forgot how much work it was.
It's a lot
So,
of work.
but
Yes.
I'm really excited to listen. And the episodes are quick. Like
Mm.
they're quick little tidbits, which I love because sometimes you just don't have a lot of time, but yours is quick and easy, and I know it's going to give people so much value, and I'm so excited to start listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I just want you to feel like you're sitting in a coffee shop or going on a walk with a friend. And I do want to keep them a little bit shorter, just, because I know people are running around and maybe don't have a whole lot of
Busy.
capacity to listen to a really long, episode. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll
Yeah,
see how it
which
goes.
is
And I'm very
awesome.
excited. Yeah, thank you.
So, if someone wanted to get in touch with you for just positivity or for weight loss or for any of the amazing things you offer, where is the best place for them to get in touch with you?
Yes. Okay. So honestly, the best place to start is social media. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Steph does a 180, or you can find me on Facebook and send me a
And
message.
spell Steph for them because I know
Oh,
you spell
yes.
your name a little bit differently.
Yes, it's a little different. It's Stefani. So no PH and no E on the end. I think it's supposed to be Italian or something. I don't know. The story goes, I was supposed to be named Shelby. That was going to be my name. And then the day before I was born, my mom saw a painting and the artist had signed the painting and spelled her name Stephanie with no E and with an F. And the day before. And so my mom said, "Nope, we're changing the name." And
Oh my
here I am. So, but
Oh.
it's either Italian or I don't know. It's a different version. But yeah, so just find me on Facebook. You can type in my name there. Find me on Instagram. You can always email me. I don't know if you want me to. It's a long email address. It's kind of obnoxious.
That's
Jeanette,
okay.
but-
Yeah, go ahead and share it, and then I will put it in the show notes as well.
Okay, so my email is just healthcoachsteph82@gmail.com.
And it's STEF.
STEF.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Cool.
So
Cool,
that's
cool.
the easiest way to find me. Message me
Awesome.
there. Yeah.
So, Stephanie, I am so happy that you came on. I'm really excited about your podcast, and I know that people are going to really love it because if you don't follow Stephanie on any of the social media apps, she is just a wealth of information and positivity. And that really, to me, the positivity is really what speaks to me and why I keep following her. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was so much fun. It was a blast.
Well, that's all I have for you today. But before I go, I want to remind you, keep learning, keep growing, and keep being fabulous you.